We're out in the garden this morning trying to beat the rain, but I've not really beat it because it's just now started raining. But I've been in the big bean patch trying to pick the beans. That's the last picking from that patch that we'll do. If there's any stray ones left, I'll save those for seed. But those look so bad. They've been planted way back in May. They've produced all summer. This is in September now, so it's time for them to die out. The bugs have really been on them, so they look terrible. But look how lovely and lush these look. This is our second planting of rattlesnake beans in the back side of the house. So they really look wonderful. And they're just now producing beans big enough to actually harvest. So this has been a wonderful experiment that we did. This is the first time we've ever replanted beans. We tore out the first rattlesnake beans and replanted them, and it's really worked so well that I know we'll do that from now on. So between the beans that have about died out and then the various little beans that we replanted, mostly peanut beans other than those rattlesnakes in the back, I think that we've got probably maybe enough for, I don't know if that's enough for a cannon or not, maybe. I'm going to give them to Granny though, and I'm going to see if she wants them. Her beans did not do as good as usual this year. She likes to plant cornfield beans, and they don't actually, it takes them so long to actually produce. So hers are just now beginning to come in, but I know she's not got this many. She has been canning beans. She's bought some beans this summer, but I think I'm going to see if she wants these beans. But I'm going to keep those rattlesnake beans, and I think Matt's going to make us a deer tenderloin for supper. So I think those rattlesnake beans, I like them when they're really young and tender. I love beans the traditional Appalachian way where you cook them a long time, but those rattlesnake beans are really good when you just roast them in the oven. So I think I'll do that with that little handful that I got this morning. I've had such a busy week. I've had website troubles this week, so if you're a reader of The Blind Pig and the Acorn, you know that I've not kept up with my okra. Granny would be horrified if she's seen it. Matt said he was horrified, actually. I've let it get way too long. So Matt's going to cut the okra. While he's working on that, I'm going to show you some of the stuff that's coming up now that we planted for our fall garden. The beans down here in this part of the garden that are still producing, the rest of the greasy beans all just basically need to be pulled out. But is these two little panels down here on the end. In the front is the Cherokee Trail bean that's a black bean. And then in the back is the one that a subscriber shared with me that's like Grammy's bean is what he called it, because it was what his grandmother grew. It kind of looks like a white half runner, maybe a little larger than white half runners, I'm not sure. But I've been kind of just letting them grow, but I need to actually cook some of them. We've cooked them inadvertently when the ends that actually grew into the greasy beans when we eat them, but I want like a mess of each all by themselves to see what we really think about them. My volunteer watermelon's still growing, still getting bigger. So I'm just going to let it go until the vine dies back, and it still looks pretty good. So, and there's another one on this same vine. It's not hardly as big as this one, but still pretty big for us. So this is our mustard greens. You can tell they're coming up and doing really good. And then just below them, we planted some stuff. Now we planted a couple of rows kind of horizontally, and they're not really come up at all. So I'm gonna have to investigate that. But you can, as we move on down, you can see. So these are the rows down through there, 2 long rows that come up really good, you can see. And to be honest with you, I can't remember what I planted. I think this is radishes. And then I think on the other side was some more turnips. Over in this area is where we planted you can see here the butter beans. Those are just now beginning to bloom and set. We planted them later in the summer. Kind of a succession planting. Wasn't really a succession because we'd never planted them before. But anyway, we started them later, so they're just beginning to set and produce. But right beside them was a row of beets, and there's not one beet that's come up. So I know beets always take forever But I'm afraid that they should have come up by now. I typically never grow beets in the fall. I just wanted to try it, so it's an experiment. And maybe they'll still come up, but they may not.
Oh. Not the green ones? I got the only two.
Is that all? That's crazy.
I got a bunch of green ones there.
Let's see, here's a few.
And I can't see. That's very possible because I can't see crap.
So we didn't get very many peas from our little patch. This is the first time we've grown the Mississippi pink eyes, and we've loved them, absolutely loved them. Matt said the only thing wrong with them is that we needed more of them. But it seems like they had a real flush at the beginning of the summer, and midsummer kind of grew, and then they kind of quit producing. And I thought, well, that must be all they do. But then I noticed blooms, you know, so I thought, well, they're not done yet. And then while we just picked a handful that was ready to be picked, like Matt said, there was lots of green ones. So maybe that's typically how they do. I don't know. If you've ever grew them before, please tell us. But Granny grew the red hull peas this year that climb like a climbing one. These are a bush variety of the Mississippi pink eye. I really can't tell no difference between the two. They look alike, except Granny's is growing up on a trellis and ours is bush, but they taste alike. So anyway, she doesn't want the ones that are ripe right now. She said I could pick them, so we're going to go down there and pick them, so maybe we'll still end up with a mess. Got to Wonder Twin.
Too hungry.
Too hungry?
Yeah. Time for that stuff.
This is my popsicle breakfast.
This is my second breakfast.
We were trying to beat the rain, so I fixed Matt an egg sandwich, but I didn't eat anything.
I can't go that long without eating.
I know, that's why I made you one. You get hangry.
I gotta eat. If I don't eat, my hormones get out of balance. And then 2 people in our house with out of balance hormones does not work.
Yeah.
One person you can get by with, but not 2.
It's kind of amazing, though, that it's September and we're still harvesting.
It's cool.
Normally by this time we're still harvesting maybe a tomato here and there and the okra. And that's about it, ain't it?
Yeah, usually.
Well, I guess I forgot about the Malabar spinach. It's always there. It's always there until it frosts.
Yeah. It's a bunch of it, too.
It's especially pretty this year. Don't tell Katie, but I think it's especially pretty because her maypop vine has took over. Usually we keep it cut back, but look how high it's got. It's got all the way to the top this year.
All kinds of rotting away.
Yeah. Well, that's usually why we keep it cut back, but somehow we've not this year. I feel rain. We did when we went down at Granny's, we did manage to get a lot. She had a lot of peas, so we'll definitely have peas this week. They're so good, aren't they?
Gosh, yeah, they're good. I like them.
So good. I guess we would like them dried too, but we've just been eating them, just hull them out and cook them like that.
Very good, very earthy. That's why I like them.
I like black-eyed peas okay. I hated them when I was young. Granny would cook them and I didn't like them at all. I like them okay, but these are way better. They don't have as strong a taste, I don't think.
And they're a little milder, but they sure are good.
We planted just a few lima beans, which in a lot of parts where we live, some people call them lima beans and some people call them butter beans. Most people here call them butter beans, don't they? So, but I only planted like four plants, so we didn't have not had many of them. But the last peas that I had, that we ate, I had a handful of butter beans, and we put them in there. That was delicious. Yeah. I finally discovered why they call them butter beans, because the consistency that I cooked them to, they were just like melt in your mouth, like butter.
Yeah, I could eat a 5-gallon bucket of them.
So good.
And some cornbread.
And so to cook them, you probably got good tips, but I just put, the first time I cooked the peas this year, I was in a hurry. And I have an Instapot that I've had for a long time, but I don't really use it that much. Matt uses it a little bit, and the girls mostly would use it. I think we may have to run for cover. Anyway, but I threw the peas in there, covered with a little bit of water and a piece of bacon, and cooked them, and they were really good. So I just kept cooking them that way because it was so quick. So then when I did the butter beans, I added, like, I was doing these for, what did I say, 15 minutes? Maybe, I can't remember, but I think I did, like, I added an extra 5 minutes for the butter beans, and they were so good. There's one of our enemies. One of the bean beetles.
They better get what they can, their time's about up.
If only we could eradicate them. So these beans, the buckets that we got, this was the Cherokee Trail bean, and I'm curious if, like, so it grows a black bean. So let's look inside this one. So really pretty. I don't know if that one's kind of purpley, but I'm wondering if, like, if it's a really green one, are they that color? Because we've never grown them. They're not. They're white. So this one's just got white beans. So to get that black color, you have to let them get like that. So it makes me think it's probably more of a shelling bean, so that you would let them dry and then shell out and keep the dried beans. But we're going to eat them green and see what we think. And then this bucket, we got a whole bucket full of, is the ones that a subscriber shared with me that he just called Grammy beans. So we just planted that one little area panel, and Matt's really impressed with them because there were so many on there.
And that's just a little bitty short row too, and they were hanging full of big full beans. And that's nice.
So Matt would have got more of those than we got, which that's a lot of the Cherokee bean, but we left some of them hanging because we want to save them for seed, because that's all the seed we had. So we've probably, all those together, including the rattlesnake beans, might have got did we get I guess a half a bushel today, maybe, of beans. But that's good for September.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
In the yard.
Yeah, yeah. There's a few more tomatoes we need to grab, and then I think we're going to have to head for the hills, head for shelter. The rain's forecasted to rain the rest of the day. Supposed to be heavy at times, and it's beginning to rain on us now. So we hope that you'll drop back by often to help us celebrate Appalachia, which is a whole lot of gardening, making a garden, but also learning new things, like how this year we tore out the beans and replanted the rattlesnake beans. We've never done that before. It's worked out so well. We've planted late tomatoes. they're doing good. And of course, trying these new varieties like the peas that we will always grow them from now on. And then hopefully we'll find out that we love these bean varieties as much too.